Hello everybody, welcome back. So yesterday on the live stream, and one of the things I love about my live stream is that people present me or ask me to look at things that I would never normally look at. One of them that came up yesterday was Pundi, right? Pundi X, which from what I remember, I can never remember the exact order of the letters, but it was either NXPS or MPSX or something along those lines, right? It's been trading on Binance since forever, and it actually had generally a pretty awful chart, but at some point, last year into this year, it started to moon pretty hard, right? The chart was one of those really nice looking charts that had just been going down for a very long time, basically balancing out at a very flat level and then getting some really decent signals on it, and then it just went absolutely crazy. I mean, hundreds, I think thousands of percent, sometimes hundreds of percent in a week. It was really, really ridiculous, and it did a few of those stabs all the way up, and then it went through a token swap and became Pundi X. So the reason I find this interesting isn't because this chart looks in any way endearing. It doesn't on its own. It doesn't really. I mean, just before we go into details about what it is that I'm trying to talk about here, I mean, on the basis of this chart alone, there is one redeeming factor, is that a lot of the altcoins, pretty much the entire market, is mimicking Bitcoin. Bitcoin put in, if we're assuming the bottom's in, it's printed a double bottom, and the market printed a double bottom with it, and the second bottom being ever so slightly above the first one. So this is the bottom here, and then the second bottom's over here, which is a really nice area away. So it's just short of 50% away. So actually, this double bottom is actually pretty positive. And if this is the bottom, then yeah, I mean, this double bottom is stronger than most other altcoins out on the market right now, and Bitcoin as well. But I'm not saying that this is going to eclipse anything right now. But I want to show you something to bring it to your attention. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice, and this isn't really based upon the chart on its own. However, the chart's not looking too bad for what it's worth, but my expectations are based around previous behaviours of not just what Pundi X used to be, but how token swaps and what they become adopt the previous behaviour of the token it was prior to that. So one of the prime examples I was going to show you is what happened with eGold, right? So I don't know if anyone trades eGold, but eGold used to be Elrond, right? And it was a Binance IEO. So along the same things like Matic, Harmony One, Seller, and Elrond, right? They all came on, through Binance, these Binance IEOs, these initial coin offerings, and for what they are, they basically, I don't think they do them anymore. They call them something else, but they come onto the market. They usually basically just dump, and then they get picked up, and then they generally do all right. And Elrond was amazing when it picked up. It blew everyone's mind. One of the best performers of 2020, from what I remember, in the summer of 2020, so about a year ago, just over a year ago probably, it was mooning so hard, it was just shocking, really. It just completely eclipsed most other altcoins last summer. And then it went through a token swap and became eGold. And so what a token swap generally does is anyone that holds on to Elrond, or in this case, what used to be Pundi X, whatever that was, I can't ever remember the ticker exactly. If you hold on to the token, it gets swapped into what the new token will be, and when the new token gets swapped, obviously there's a different total supply, different circulating supply, and so the price is obviously speculative, but it generally gets put on the market at a different price because it's a different token with a lot less usually of what it was prior, and that's what happened with Pundi X. There's a hell of a lot less of them now than there used to be when it was its previous thing, and a massive amount less of eGold than there was of Elrond, right? So if you hold on to these tokens prior to them having the token swap, your tokens are swapped into what they would assume is a fair swap. And it's usually more than fair, it's usually in your favour. But what often happens, in my experience, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this to your attention, is what often happens is the token swap takes place and then it usually gets dumped, because the first day of a token swap is highly volatile, wicks going up and down all over the place. It's just completely it's just madness, right? It's enormously speculative. Some people want it, some people who hold on to it want to get rid of it. They're already in profit, usually quite by a long shot on the moment that it opens, and it usually ensues into a giant dump. So this is what happened with eGold, and like I say, Elrond prior to becoming eGold was an enormous, amazing performer for an altcoin. It just went thousands of percent, in the alt season of 2020, in the summer of 2020, right? So the one that came shortly after the enormous dump. There was a massive alt season, almost as big as the one that we've just been through. It was huge, and Elrond was one of the leaders. So what ended up happening is obviously the token swap kicked in. It got sold off massively to a large extent, all the way down to these levels down here, 82% retracement, and then it adopted its previous behaviour, which was going crazy, and absolute beauty of a chart. In fact, we're even going to have to put it onto the log scale to really get a decent read on what this really was. It was close to a 4,000% move, right? So it's a 40x, right? You can't complain with a 40x. And let's just measure this from the bottom to the top. Not that anyone gets the bottom or sells the top, but it was in about a 6-month period, right? You can't complain with a 40x within a 6-month period, and that's what happened. That's what happened to eGold. Similar kind of vibe went on with Storm X, if you remember Storm X. Storm X was it used to be Storm Play, then it rebranded to Storm X, and went through a token swap. And look what we had here. So just before the token swap, there was an enormous rally for Storm Play, or Storm as it was called, and then when the token swap happened, whoopsie daisy, same old behaviour kicks in. We have a really big retracement within a 2, 3, 4 day period, within a week of 42% down, within a month 47% down, and then it adopts its previous behaviour to an extent. But this is neither here nor there. The big picture is told over here, and again we've had to put this on the log scale to give it justice. If we take it off the log scale, that's what it looks like. So let's measure this one out from wherever the bottom would have been, which I suppose we'll just measure it from here to here. That was a tasty 5,500%. So yeah, not too shabby at all. So I'm not saying that this is going to happen to Pundi X, but I think that based upon the way that these things often end up working out, is that there's a strong chance that it would, because previous behaviour or the previous chart becomes adopted after the giant sell-off of a token swap. And if we have printed the bottom here, then it would be not safe, but it would be reasonable to assume us at least reclaim the peak of here. But if that gets reclaimed, I also would expect quite a lot more after that, right? Based upon those two examples that I've shown you of two token swaps with similar kind of behaviour, Pundi X has got the same kind of behaviour at its very beginning, and it's coming out from what we can only assume right now. Assumption is the word. Remember, you should never assume, because it makes an ass out of you and me. It's a dad joke, what can I say? But that's what I'm saying. We can assume that the bottom is in, and we're also making another leap of faith that this is going to behave like every other token swap that we've seen over the last couple of years, which is huge dump, bottom, retrace back to the top, full recovery, and then price discovery mode to a large extent within a healthy market. And that's another thing that we have to bear in mind. So people are going to be asking me, I suppose, about entry points. Now, I don't have an entry point on this one. I mean, what I would often say, and what I have been saying about trading altcoins, especially small caps like this, is that you should really not put in more than you could afford to lose to start with. And also, I'd be more interested in playing any kind of altcoin in this with this kind of setup, this kind of situation. When there's at least Bitcoin is at an area of potential rejection on the Bitcoin dominance chart, right? So they're suggesting a rotation from the market cap coming out of Bitcoin into altcoins. So I've got a whole video on that. If you look back a couple of days on my channel, you'll see what I mean when I'm talking about that. And then it would offer the opportunity for something like this to emerge, right, into an amazing standard behaviour that we see on these token swap coins. Now, if we look at the chart on the small term time frames, which is really all we've got to go by, it doesn't look too bad. On the smaller term time frames, just like most things, we've got a nice strong golden cross. We've got a continuation of a steady uptrend from that last double bottom area, which again was just short of 50% up from its actual bottom. So, entry points for anyone who's interested is, like I say, there's a leap of faith that goes into something like this. The chart is brand new. There's nothing really you can do about it. You have to just dive in and kind of, in a way, hope for the best. However, I do have faith not in Pundi or this chart, but in the behaviours that I've recognised over at least the last couple of years when it comes to token swaps and adopting previous chart behaviour. And so I think that this one would be a decent opportunity at the low levels, even now, even if we're expecting it to come down. Which the market is vulnerable to a sizable pullback with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's come up to a decent area. It's been up for a long period of time, as in like a couple of weeks. Obviously, not massive, and we're still technically in an accumulation zone, and the Bitcoin dominance is below 48 or something. So it's still quite low, and by that I mean that if it increases, then Bitcoin is still your preferred bet, for maybe not the biggest gains, but the safest returns and the lowest risk. But Pundi X has struck a chord with me, and I feel like if we do get a decent pullback in the market, and this does pull back to some appropriate moving averages, whether it's the 50, the 10, or the centre of the Bollinger Band, or even the 21, which, like I say, if we were to buy it now and we got these retraces, that's a 14%, that's a 20%. So, what's a 20% move when we're talking about potential, 500%, 1,000%, 2,000% in the future? It's not much, is it? But it's one of those risks that you have to take, and it's going to take a period of time because we do have to have a favourable market for this for it to take off, and at the moment that's still undecided. I have to say, it's still undecided. And even though things are looking quite good, it is definitely undecided. So this, like I said, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. This could be something based upon previous charts and previous token swaps and the way that they've worked, and they've adopted the previous behaviour of the coin that it was before. Pundi X, before it became Pundi X, did do some epic moves. So did eGold before, as when it was Elrond. So did Storm X when it was Storm Play, and they all went through the same process. And I expect that this will probably do the same thing. And so to give it, I suppose a price target would be unrealistic. But if we look at it and base it around eGold, for instance, which it does have a similar looking chart, if you think about what we're looking at here, onto the market, dump, found a bottom, went up, started to move up, and then basically went into a massive uptrend with a huge parabolic peak. Again, the market has to be, favourable. I mean, the first peak was over here. The second peak was really pretty much just before the market collapsed, which was around May. So the market does have to be in your favour. But yeah, I mean, like I say, maybe I'm thinking about this. Maybe I'm outside of the box by a large margin. But I am willing to put my money where my mouth is, and I think I will dive into Pundi X on perhaps hopefully the next pullback we get in the market, or a retest of these moving averages, whether it's the 50, the 10, or the 21. I'll be in. I think I'll be in on some of this. And again, I'm not looking for immediate returns. This chart doesn't say that it wants to do anything special anytime soon. It could take 6 months or a year, or it might not ever happen. But when we're talking about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 X's like what we have seen with StormX and eGold, you don't need to put much in, do you, to get some decent returns? If you put $1,000 in, I mean, you're talking some decent returns. Even if you put $100 in, you are looking at some potentially decent returns if the same logic applies to this as it did with both of these, and probably a few others that I don't even I can't even think of right now. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. I hope that was in some way interesting, and don't obviously harvest your kidneys, put them on eBay to put into Pundi X. That's not the intention of this video. It's just a theory that I have based upon how these things have worked in the past, and it's a theory that I think it would be rude not to put some in the event that this did do something ridiculous like a 10, 20, 30, 40 or 50x over a reasonably short space of time, as in within a 12-month period. Or it could completely not work out, and I will never speak of it again. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.